Breaking news, folks. All across the world, there are young people, women, LGBTQ, law enforcement, military, intelligence, politicians, school board, teachers, business people, and many others, risking everything for law and order, freedom, equal human and voting rights, which only a free and a fair democracy can provide. They need our help. Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. Buon appetito.
All famous characters and events are from my dreams, even those based on real people. All are impersonated poorly and are thus fictional. Do not permit our pod to come into your ears if you are allergic to the famous, as various illnesses, including death, may occur. The following programs should not be heard or viewed by anyone.
Buongiorno, and welcome to our 5th episode of The Little Penis That Could, the podcast and the cartoon series. Today's show is titled, Whose Penis Is This a Penis? Where we will talk about how shared social responsibilities via international online democratic nations can propel the future of democracy with gorgeous George Clooney's Little Penis of Positivities as the main attraction or attractant. If you're new to our shows, you should know that we're on a mission to protect, strengthen, and expand democracy worldwide. We intend to use funky music and aspirational ideas to expand the discussion and actions related to freedom and democracy all across the world. We also recognize that everyday citizens, local, national, and world leaders, law enforcement personnel, international diplomats, military personnel, and all manner of people are currently risking their lives, careers, and livelihoods as they fight for and champion democratic values all across the world at great personal risk. At the Little Penis That Could, the podcast and the cartoon series, we hope that we can all unite worldwide to help them. We need to help the helpers of freedom and democracy in every way possible. We're also optimistic and hopeful that by saying or doing any manner of crazy shit, we can begin promoting discussion and plans to unite the world's youth and others online so as to create international online democratic nations. On a lighter and smaller note, if we need to prank the former world's greatest prankster, gorgeous George Clooney's, into selling his audaciously tasty, juicy, and nutritious little peanuts for charities, and to expand these discussions, what the hell are we waiting for? That is why we intend to funk up democracy with our latest commercial for Gorgeous George's intercontinentally ballistic and hypersonic, audaciously tasty, juicy, and nutritious Little Peanuts of Positivities. We hope you enjoy. Buon appetito, my friends.
Buongiorno. As many of you know, we at the Little Penis That Could, the podcast and the cartoon series, we will go to extreme lengths to expand the conversations exploring what every possible way we can work to protect and expand democracy worldwide is. Like they say, any publicity is good publicity. So, with that said, I would like to give some props to my favorite beer, or at least my favorite beer name, Busch Beer. Look, folks, I know what you're thinking. You're really looking forward to the delightful experience of getting your hands on Gorgeous George's audaciously tasty, juicy, and nutritious Little Penis of Positivities. But when you do, what are you gonna chase his little penis down with? Well, I, Dr. Gino Bartali, I recommend the Busch Beer. That's right, folks. Don't tell anyone I told you this, but Busch has been after Gorgeous George for years. That's why We at the Little Penis That Could, the podcast and the cartoon series, we recommend next time you find yourself with a handful of penis, make sure your other hand is holding a nice inky-pinky bush, so that every time you take a sip, you'll be thinking, Mamma mia, that's a tasty bush. Anyway, folks, join us as we prank a gorgeous George Clooney's into selling his audaciously tasty little penis to funk up world democracies. And now,
Welcome to this edition of The Little Penis That Could, the podcast and the cartoon series, for today's show titled, Whose Penis? He's the Subpenis. Also known as How and Why Societal Groups Will Form International Online Democratic Nations. Folks, we control the future, our future. But we need to stop so much focusing on the problems that the world and American freedom and democracy face. We must focus on the solutions available for freedom and democracy. I saw this great example in a currency commercial for Coinbase that was recently created that was about innovations. Now, despite the fall of crypto, it will likely still be a major part of our futures. But that isn't the point. I don't want you to think about Coinbase. We're playing the commercial to promote the idea about progress and innovations and how people have a hard time accepting change. So here's the clip. I hope that you found the power of innovation and invention that was shown in that commercial as inspirational as we do. It is said that necessity sees the mother of invention, and thus innovation. At the Little Penis That Could podcast and cartoon series, we are now going to share the following views about the current necessities as related to the conditions of a freedom and democracy across the world.
Charles, I'd like to begin with you in the threats to democracy discussion about what you saw in that Trump QAnon gathering and the threat to democracy represented there.
Well, the idea that, half, I always say half when I say Republican Party, it's not really half, and now is drifting closer to accepting more of the QAnon conspiracy theories is a danger. I mean, we'd only have two political parties in America. We have two. And if one of them is behaving in this way, believing the things that Republicans now say that they believe, you can't describe that as anything other than a threat, and a very serious one.
When the country is up against rising authoritarianism and election denialism and extremist ultra-right groups that are willing to use violence against everyone else to get their way, those are crimes. And there definitely is a role for the courts and for the prison system, right? But there's also a really important role for everything else, for a whole of society response. When it comes to threatening force as the way of seizing power here, there is not only room, there is a necessity for a whole of society response, for everybody to do something, for activism, for journalism, for political organizing to keep those folks away from real power.
It's as if I'm going to wake up tomorrow morning in Bedford Falls. The reality is, though, I will wake up tomorrow in the America of the year 2021, a nation unrecognizable to those who came before us and fought to protect it, which is what you must do now.
I don't know about you folks, but I truly do believe that we are at a time in history where democracy and freedom are in peril. An international group that tracks the health of democracy across the world says that fewer than 1/5 of world citizens now live in fully free democracies, and that the number is shrinking each year. We believe that if American democracy fails, it is entirely possible that much or all of world democracy could fail. Now, in order to control our futures, the future of freedom and democracy, it almost seems certain that some forms of international online communities or nations will be formed in the defense and in the offense of democracy. You see, democracy and freedom only survive and thrive when they are offensive to authoritarianisms. We understand that by proposing international online nations, ion nations, as a potential innovation in the progress of evolutionary and inventive democracy, many may feel dismissive and negative, much like those people and societies felt about past innovations and progress as seen in the Coinbase commercial. Let's look at that again.
It's called a bicycle, but will anybody ride it?
The automobile is here, but horses are here to stay.
Elevator? What's wrong with using the stair?
A telephone? Who would actually use that?
People said it was not possible to fly through the air.
Do we really need personal computers?
Who would actually use that?
Electric vehicles will never happen.
The reasons why these previous innovations succeeded is because of what is known as the law of innovation diffusion, also known as the innovation curve. Here we will play a clip from Simon Sinek and his linked TED Talk so that he can better explain to you the innovation diffusion or innovation curve. So, we have the necessity required for the innovation. That's the undeniable attacks upon freedoms and democracy. So this prompts the question, who are the innovators and early adopters that we need to reach? They are you. Now, what are your characteristics and communities? Where will you come from? As Simon explains, those of you who are innovators and early adopters, who may watch our videos and decide to lead and help build Ion the Nations, you will likely do this because of two reasons. One, you may choose to do this because you believe in something called democracy. You believe in freedom and individual rights. Another group of you may just recognize that these opportunities are there because you feel called as leaders. At the Little Penis That Could, the podcast and cartoon series, we believe that some of you will become world leaders because the choices that you will make to innovate freedom and democracy, whether through international online democratic nations or other ways. We believe that democracy will ultimately stand and fight and win. So, where will you come from, we ask? What inspired communities will produce you, these innovators and leaders? Women. Women innovators and early adopters believe in the rights to vote, the rights to choose, the rights to equal pay and dress. These women believe in democracy and innovation. In the past, these would have been the women who led the right to vote protests, the rights to own property, obtain credit, and all manner of other rights. that they fought for and attained. Next, we have the youth. Young early adopters will almost certainly join Ion Nations because they believe in the same things that the women believe in, and because they believe it is their turn to lead the world. These youth believe the failings of current world leaders require innovative change to how democracy lives and breathes. They will unite around climate change. They will fight corrupted and monopolized capitalisms. These youth would have been on the front lines protesting child labor, illegitimate wars, and other issues. Next, we have the religiously oppressed. That would be like Jews, Muslims, Christians, and all manner of others who live under threat to their freedoms of religion all across the world. Your leaders, your innovators, and early adopters will accept the challenge and the opportunity to lead in the protections of democracy because of the protections democracy provides to all religions. These leaders, you, would likely have been those who founded America or Israel because of the religious oppressions that you faced then. Or you may have been like my namesake, famed cyclist Gino Bartali, who risked his life to deliver identification documents which saved the lives of Jews in Italy during World War II. Next we have people of color with the poor and disadvantaged, because there are correlations there, whether we like to admit it or not. Your leaders will early adopt international online nations because your most forward-looking community members recognize that without democracies, racial and economic oppressions will only rise all across the world. These innovators and early adopters from your communities would have formed the Underground Railroad for slaves in America. They would have been like most of all races who marched with Martin Luther King. Across the world, they might be like Mandela and all manner of other innovators and early adopters from communities of color and the oppressed and disadvantaged. These are just some examples of who we believe will see the opportunities and the necessities of Ion Nations, international, online, democratic nations. We could also say the same about leaders, innovators, and early adopters related to climate, plastics, environment, indigenous peoples, and all manner of others, including everyday world citizens who realize that we must always early adopt new ways to grow and to advance democracy. What we ask is that we might all just imagine a world where we are united, defensive, and offensive in the pursuit and growth of world democracy. Once all of these innovators and early adopters from these groups unite online, we believe it can become like a tsunami of democracy, led by the world's youth, so as to cross the chasm to early majority in the innovation diffusion curve of freedom and democracy. We believe when people of color unite with the religiously oppressed, when women unite with the world's youth, when all lovers of democracy use the internet to dramatically accelerate the adoption of international online nations and other collaborations, we believe the power and influence of innovation and adoption related to freedom and democracy can only advance and improve our futures. The reason democracy is in peril, it is because
our broken and corrupted democracy is what we have been waiting for. It is what is needed. It is the necessity which will inspire the next generation of innovators and early adopters.
And now,
this week's letter to prank gorgeous George Clooney's into selling his tasty little peanuts for charity and to save world democracy will be read through Maharishi Brad from the Church of the Untethered and a Tasty Peanuts. Buon appetito. Buongiorno, gorgeous. It is I, Maharishi Brad, speaking to you as Dr. Gino. Or it is I, Dr. Gino, speaking to you as Maharishi Brad. Or perhaps it is someone you pranked in the past. Anyone. Whoever it is, we have now aligned with the lovers of democracy from all across the world. And we have chosen you, gorgeous, as the man who will be known from this day forward by his Native American name, Di Buon Gusto Eric Edie, he who walks with tasty peanuts. Soon, gorgeous, soon you shall acquiesce to forever being known as the man who sold his tasty little peanuts for charities and to save world democracy. Soon, your friends and all you have ever pranked, they shall share with the world all of the attributes and the flavors of your tasty little peanuts. It is at this moment that you, gorgeous, Di Buon Gusto, Eric, Edie, he who walks with tasty peanuts. At this moment right now, you just realized that you may never know who has pranked you into leading a worldwide discussion about all of the different ways to work together and how to save world democracies. You shall never know, or may never know, who accomplished this while funding justice all across the world with the sale of your tasty little peanuts. Stay hungry, my friend, and share the peanuts. Ciao, Bella.
Well, folks, thanks for listening or watching today's episode 5 of the Little Penis That Could podcast and the cartoon series. We sincerely hope you will join us in pranking gorgeous George Clooney's into selling his audaciously tasty, juicy, and nutritious little penis of positivities for charity and to unite the world in the fight for freedom and democracy. Please consider joining us this holiday season by donating to any of the great charities benefiting Ukraine. They are literally on the front lines in the battle for freedom and democracy all across the world. Join us next week as President Volodymyr Zelensky also known as President Vladimir Democracy, also known as VD. Join us as VD challenges Gorgeous George Clooney's to a penis-selling contest for charities. I mean, who can resist some extra-large Ukrainian nuts, especially if we can turn it into a worldwide charity to benefit Ukraine and the Ukrainians. Remember the words of famous futurist Buckminster Fuller when he said, "You don't change things by fighting the existing realities. To change something, build a new model, which makes the previous model obsolete." Stay hungry, my friends, and share the penis. Ciao, Bella.